Hey everyone, this is Chris.
And Lorenzo.
And welcome to our Best of Saturday series. Now that we have hundreds of episodes, we get a lot of listeners asking us where to start.
So we'll be selecting some of our most popular episodes to share each Saturday from our years of podcasting. We hope you enjoy it.
No role plays, just real. Chris and Lorenzo share 4 decades of combined experience to help you become a more effective leader.
We've never really, as a workforce, spent a lot of time on making sure we're developing good leaders.
We'll be able to share stories, experience, mistakes, failures, successes.
This is Hacking Your Leadership.
Welcome to Hacking Your Leadership. I'm Chris.
And I'm Lorenzo.
Lorenzo, I was at the supermarket yesterday, and there was a person there that I used to work with at an organization many years ago. And fortunately, I was able to get out of there without him seeing me. But I remember thinking to myself, the first, when I saw him, I thought to myself, oh, I hope he doesn't see me. I do not want to talk to him right now. I do not want to talk to him. And as I'm driving home, I did get out of there without him seeing me, and we didn't have a conversation. That's good. As I'm driving home, I started thinking about, why I didn't want to talk to him or want him to see me, when he wasn't a bad employee. He was just a person that depressed me, that I didn't want to be around. I vividly remember being a manager. I wasn't his direct manager, but I was a manager, and I would look at the schedule before I had to go into work. And if I saw his name on the schedule of working that day, I would think, ugh, I don't want to work with him. and it's, he didn't break any rules. He did what he was supposed to do, in general. He had a negative attitude. He was cynical. He brought everybody down. And it's one of those things where I can't necessarily define it, but I can give you plenty of examples of things that happened. And it got me thinking about how many times we work with people like that when we shouldn't have to. Mm-hmm. Why do we work with people like that as leaders? If you're a leader and you ever find yourself in a situation where you're going to be working with somebody and you think the same thing, oh, I don't want to work with that person today. I don't have it in me to deal with this today. Well, why are you then? Why do you deal with that? And so first of all, have you ever had a situation like that happen to you, where there's a person you just don't want to work with? And why do you think we do that to ourselves? We allow that to happen for sometimes years.
Yeah, of course. I think everybody, like in full transparency, like, a long career of a lot of different places and different teams. You have those people. And I think that, I guess the real answer from a leadership standpoint is we shouldn't have to, and we shouldn't allow it, and they shouldn't work there, right? Like that's the truest part of the answer. I think many times that can over-index. I know we talked about this, in a previous episode around tenure, right? People that have been around for a long time, they tend to have this kind of aura of tribal knowledge and, of system knowledge, and they've kind of been around for a long time. So they have a lot of the answers, and they understand a lot of the why we do the things that we do and how it's evolved over time. And there's value in that. And sometimes people will say like, they've always been that way, or that's just that person being that person. So like, if it was you, like, oh, that's just Chris being Chris. And usually when I hear that, that's typically a red flag, right? Because you're basically saying we're allowing this person to have this behavior just because we've always allowed them to have this behavior, right? And that's not okay. Because the reality is, attitudes like that, people that show up to work in that way can really damage a team. It can really damage a culture. It can spread, just in different ways. It can spread because people can see that. It can impact them. They can start to feel a certain way, or not great about the job, or unmotivated, that type of thing. But also, people can say like, well, if this person can be this way and still work here, why am I trying so hard, right? Why am I putting forth this effort? Why am I trying to put all this energy into moving us forward and doing really good work if this person doesn't have to do it as well? So there's that other element of, from a team perspective, that when you allow those types of people to stay on a team over time, it can really bring to question, how involved the leadership really is around building the right culture and around, making sure that the bar is constantly rising and that expectations are clear and fair across the board.
Yeah, I agree. And in fact, I just thought of something else that happened with this person. I vividly remember wishing they were late so that I could write them up for being late in the hopes that it would be the final time and we could get rid of them for being late. And that was lazy. I mean, as a leader, that was a lazy move. Hoping they break a policy? Oh, please steal something. Please steal something. I just want you can keep it. I just want you to go, So if we're hoping for them to break a policy so we can get rid of them, obviously, I don't know many companies that have a policy that, like a literal written policy that says, you can't be a cynical jerk, because you can't really define that. And it goes back to having these policies that are very objective, and you have to be able to, show that they violated the policy and document it. But what if what they're doing is just that they don't contribute to team cohesion and they make people not want to be around them? And it takes a lot more leadership. It takes a lot more skill in leadership to be able to deal with that. But it has to be dealt with. I mean, we have to be able to agree that one of two things has to happen. They have to change or they have to go away, because keeping it the way it is will be a negative impact on the team.
Yeah, and I think too, like, it's completely okay for you as a leader to sit down with that person and have a very real, honest, transparent conversation and say things like, hey, let's be open and honest here. You come to work and you meet the expectations of the job, and you do the things that you're asked to do. But I have observed and seen that you're disengaged, that you're cynical, that you always seem to have a comment whenever we have a conversation about certain things. You're always a person who rolls your eyes. You kind of have a negative attitude on certain things. You don't really, you don't assume positive intent when a leader is asking you for something or this or that. So, like, just having that conversation, I think, is the first step to beginning to begin to walk down this path of which way are we going, right? Are they changing, or is it better for them to go? And I think that's the first thing that you've really got to do is have that clear of an honest conversation. And what's really important in situations like this is, as a leader, you have to own the conversation by talking about things that you have observed yourself, seen firsthand, or very specific examples of feedback or observations that you've gotten from other leaders that you can reference. This is not a time when you're going to borrow authority, when you're going to say things like, oh, well, hey, I want to talk to you, like, the team says that you're negative. Oh, I've heard that, you aren't, helping build our culture in a positive way. Like you do not, in these situations, want to borrow authority at all. You need to stick with exactly what you've seen, what you've observed, and what are actual facts of things that are going on, which means that what you just said is, you have to put a lot of work in, right? You had to go out there and do these things and be in a position to notice and have these conversations with this person and be in these larger groups when this person may have an outburst or be negative or that type of thing.
Yeah, I think that's spot on, first of all. So, the line of people are saying, or people have told me, that's just a way of saying, I don't kill the messenger. I love you and I think you're a great person, but people are saying, so I guess we got to deal with this. It's definitely not that at all. That's not how you deal with that. So I totally agree.
If you're a leader and you start off your sentence with those phrases, you're just lazy. I'll just put it out there right now.
Yes. There's also another thing too, you gave the example of, are you a new leader and you're just noticing this, or have you been dealing with this for a while? And I feel like it is in situations where I've been in, where I've noticed this about myself, the longer that I wait to deal with it, the harder it is to deal with, because then you have to rationalize why you've put up with it for several years or several months. So if I sit down with an employee who's a jerk for the last 3 years and I say, I've been noticing something, the first thing they're going to think is, I'm the same person that I was for the last 3 years. What did I do differently? It's like, the answer is, you didn't do anything differently. The answer is, I was too lazy to address it for 3 years. So, and that's hard for a leader to have to basically say. You're figuratively saying that when you wait 3 years to address the issue. So addressing it early is absolutely better, not just from a standpoint of you have more credibility. But from a standpoint of it will shock the system of the person who's doing it. This is a new person. This is a new person that's coming in, and wow, they're sitting me down within a month. Even if I disagree with them, I need to at least think about this, because if they're saying this to me after a month, I'm not going to be able to pull the same stuff I've been pulling for the last 3 years with this chip on my shoulder and get away with it. It's obvious I'm not. So at least something's going to change. Something's going to tilt to where that it will set the relationship on a different course. Whether it gets better or they go away, it would still yet to be determined. But either is better than continuing down the path of cynicism and having the chip on the shoulder.
Yeah, and I think too, there's another resource here that is really important and can be very helpful in working through situations like this. Peer leaders. Besides leadership having very real, honest, transparent conversations with individuals like this, I think it's imperative that as leaders, you also, challenge people within the team itself to say like, hey, like, let's not put up with any of this type of behavior, right? I'm asking for you to do it when the door's closed and the leader's not in the room, and challenge, what's going to happen. Because if you're telling me at one point that you want to lead this team, my advice is you start to do these behaviors now to establish what you will and won't stand for. You let people know and kind of put them on notice that you're not going to allow this behavior anymore. And then quite honestly, like when you get that opportunity then to lead a team like that, there's not this shift of, now they have the job. Now they want to act differently. And to what you just said, now, 2 weeks ago, I was allowed to act this way in front of them and they didn't say anything. But now that they have this job and they're our leader, now they don't want me to do that, right? So, I would always suggest, not just the leadership side of things, but bring others along to help, defend that culture and build that culture and challenge those individuals that just, don't want to be team players and don't act as if, the positive environment that we're trying to create is a priority to them.
Yeah, I think if you're a leader also and you decide to have one of these conversations with a person like that, with a person who, isn't really doing any, they're not really violating any policies, but they're just not a fun person to be around, you need to prepare for them to react negatively to this criticism. And this is regardless of whether or not you're having the conversation on the third day after meeting them, or whether you were putting it off and putting it off and putting it off, and now it's been several months or several years. You need to plan for the possibility that they are either going to get defensive, they're going to tell you you're wrong, and here's what it comes down to. Because your opinion is rooted in how this person makes you feel, you need to keep the conversation around how it makes you feel. Don't have the conversation be about a specific word or phrase that they said, because then that's what they're going to focus on. Okay, I won't say that word or that phrase anymore. I won't roll my eyes anymore. No, it's not about the eye rolling, and it's not about the word or the phrase. It's about all of those things together that create this aura around you that makes people not want to be around you. And it's not just about changing the behavior. There's no specific individual behavior that I'm looking for you to change. It is an attitude that you bring to everything you do. And it's something that can be tolerated sometimes. If a person's having a bad day, if someone's a good person in general, you pull them aside and you say, hey, what's going on? Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm having a bad day. It's all good. But when it's every single day, it brings down the cohesion of the team, and it makes other people feel like they don't have to try as hard. So have the conversation in the context of that with the person, so that they can't dwell or focus on a single action or behavior, but rather the thing to correct is how they make you feel coming to work. I mean, you can even be as candid as saying, hey, I look at the schedule before I come in to see who's working, and I'll be honest, man, when I see that you're on the schedule, the first thing I think is, that means I'm going to have a bad day, And be honest, be vulnerable and candid with an employee like that. Don't be insulting, and don't yell at them, and don't say anything that's gonna jam yourself up. But it's okay to tell them how you're feeling, because it's the truth. And you don't need to necessarily ask for an answer from them right away. You don't need to say, defend yourself. this isn't this is a rhetorical. This isn't what are you going to do to change this now? It's I'm just letting you know that this has to change. So really think about this and really start to internalize this and think about how you're bringing yourself and how you're showing up to work every single day, because this is an issue.
Yeah, absolutely. And the only thing I would add to that is be consistent, right? As a leader, if you're going to have those types of conversations with people that are a detriment to the culture, or that are negative, or that have these types of attitudes or whatever, you better have them with all of them, right? Have the conversations with all of them, versus maybe just the one or two that you really just don't like,
right?
Because that can happen too, right? Like many times I've seen it as well in my career, that there are some people that their effect on the team is exactly the same thing, but because of maybe their interests, or because of how they talk to you, or
their performance, they make money.
Right? That's exactly where I was about to go. Right? That because they lead the team in performance, you feel like, well, I'm not going to talk to them about that. No, you better. You better talk to all of them, because if you pick and choose, or you cherry pick in that way, then you're actually causing even more damage to the overall culture, because it becomes a popularity contest at that point, versus actually being a consistent, leader with, influencing the business in a positive way, and making sure that the expectations are the same for everybody.
Yeah, I completely agree. And so here's the thing: even though individual employees probably won't have visibility to the conversations you have with other employees like that, to believe that it isn't known throughout the team whether or not you tolerate this stuff in general or not, or whether you pick and choose your favorites and who you tolerate this from or not, it's going to be known. Just because they're not sitting in the room while you're telling this to somebody, they know whether or not this is something you tolerate as a leader, whether you're consistent on your values on it, or whether you're picking and choosing, and as you say, having a popularity contest.
Yeah, I'll tell you, in my experience, those same people that have that type of negative kind of tone, or their cynicism, or whatever it is, they're also the first ones to go and tell people, like, oh, I got in trouble yesterday, right?
Oh, yeah, they are.
Yeah, they're the first ones to announce the fact that they had to have a conversation, because they're looking to try to, bring in other people and try to, gain some sympathy or some empathy from the team. So yes, I completely agree with you that it is known most of the time by that exact person trying to then influence the others to say that they're upset about having to have a conversation.
Yeah, those cynical people, they're a sneaky bunch sometimes, aren't they?
Oh, yeah.
All right. And with that, it looks like it's about that time for today's 1 Minute Hack.
The 1 Minute Hack.
Okay, so for today's 1 minute hack, here's what I would like you to do. If you are a leader and you are listening to this episode and reflecting on the exact type of people that you would do the same thing that Chris did if you saw them in a grocery store, which is leave your milk in the aisle and run the other way. Is think about that on your team currently. If you have people that have that type of a negative influence on your culture, write down exactly what are the things that they do. What are the things that you have personally observed, and what are the things that are not just rumors and hearsay, but are based in actual facts of their behaviors, and on top of that, add in how that behavior is impacting a result. And that result could be anything from a business result to a customer service result to, how their peers feel, other leaders feel, whatever that is. But really kind of take the time to write down what you've observed, what you've seen, what examples have you been a part of, and how that's having a negative impact on the business, and then go and have that conversation with that person. The reason why I want you to write it down first is to do a little bit of pre-work so that, as Chris mentioned earlier in this episode, you're prepared to have the conversation. You know that you're probably going to get some elements of defensiveness or deflection or redirection, or lashing out, but at least you've taken the time to take a few minutes to really prepare yourself and have that conversation, talking about how you feel, how they make you feel, and asking them what needs to change, but also being very clear that this is unacceptable and will need to, end as quickly as possible so that we can move forward and have a great culture and a great environment within our business for all employees and all customers.
I completely agree with that. I think it's a great 1-minute hack, and I love how you added at the end there that it's about how they make you feel. We all know the book, Everything I Need to Know I Learned in Kindergarten. I vividly remember my parents telling me that when I was fighting with my siblings, don't say, when you call me that name, you're a jerk. It's when you call me that name, it makes me feel like this. And when you make it about yourself and not about the other person, they can't argue with it. They can't tell you how you feel. Only you can. So if you root it in how it is making you feel as opposed to a specific action they're doing, I think you get a lot more traction that way.
Absolutely. Completely agree. So this has been Hacking Your Leadership. I'm Lorenzo.
And I'm Chris.
Thanks for tuning in. Talk to you guys soon.